Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH, and I'm back for another hardware review. And what we got in front of us here is, yes, kind of out of nowhere. Been thinking about it the last few days, or couple weeks actually. I actually broke down and bought the iSlab, or in common terms, the iPad Pro. Remember back in my Apple keynote video this fall where they unveiled everything. I was kind of debating, I thought I was going to get the Apple TV, and haven't got that yet. But I was kind of debating about the iPad because, like, part of me wanted it, part of me didn't. It's kind of expensive, but it's pretty interesting. And the other thing with the iPad Pro, kind of a cool way to get my parents an updated iPad, because they're using, funny enough, they are addicted to my iPad 2, but it isn't running very well anymore. So it's kind of an excuse to give them my old iPad. They'll have something that runs well, and I get to play with this beast, as I call it, the iSlab. This is the iPad Pro. I have the Space Gray 128 gig Wi-Fi model. Now, interestingly, they only give you, the choices that they give you are 32 gigabyte Wi-Fi, 128 gig Wi-Fi, and if you want cellular, you're getting 128 gig whether you like it or not. It really bugs me the way they do that little skip thing, both on their phones and for their tablets. The iPhone, you've got a 16, they skip the 32, and then they go up to the 64. Why anyone is doing a 16 gig phone is beyond my thought. I don't get it. But anyway, but they do the same thing with the iPad Pro. They go from the 32 to the 128, they skip the 64, and then, like I said, your cellular model is only the 128 gig option. It comes in like the silver, space gray, or gold. Now, silver might be okay. I'm kind of a space gray guy. Mainly, the thing is, like, if you get one of the lighter models or the gold model, I like a black bezel. My iPad mini that I won a while back, I don't like the white ones because I don't like having a white bezel, or even really a colored bezel. I think it just doesn't look as well, or doesn't look as good, especially when you're watching, a movie or a game or whatever. I like the black bezel. So let's see if we can do this one-handed. This is a monstrosity. Now, up on the top, you have your power button, as you normally do. On the right-hand side, you have your oops, sorry about that, guys. You have your up and down volume, and that's really about it. On the bottom, you have your lightning connector for charging and such. And on the left side, you have absolutely nothing. Now, the cool thing about this, in addition, on the top and the bottom, like I said, on the top you have the power, on the bottom you have the, you also have the headphone jack up here on the top where the power button is. Now, on the top and the bottom, if you're having it in portrait orientation, in addition to the power and the lightning connector, one of the things I really like about this is it has 4 speakers. You see a little grill there, a little grill over here, and on the bottom you have the same. So this sucker has 4 speakers. Finally, we don't have that crazy kind of mono, like, left side or the right side kind of thing. Not only did they do it like one on each side, but it switches. If you have it in portrait orientation, the speakers play sound in it differently than if you have it in landscape, if you're watching a movie or playing a game. So that I really like, and the sound quality is quite good. Let us fire this thing up here.
Screen locked.
Now I do, oh really? You're going to do that to me? Here, let's do this. Boom. Here we go.
KNFB reader.
Now I do have voiceover on, as you can hear. This is the iPad Air, or iPad Pro. What I really like about it is the screen is really nice and sharp. I don't know how good the camera will pick up on it, but if you are low vision, if you don't mind having, a little bit of extra weight, a little bit of, this thing is not a small thing. This is a 12.9-inch display, almost a 13-inch display. And yeah, but this thing is, the colors pop out really nicely. I've used quite a few apps already, and some of the text where I would just be on the verge of being able to read it. Some places I can actually read a bit easier, which is cool. Now the home screen here, I kind of wish that, that they took into account the bigger screen with iOS 9. There's a lot of empty space here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across. You could probably get another at least 2 columns in there easily. Same with your dock. You could load that sucker up with a lot of what you would want. The other reason that I really was kind of curious about the iPad Pro is I've wanted to see what a game, or what it was like with a faster processor, and especially more RAM, more memory. Most up until the 6 Plus and the iPhone 6, you had 1 gig of RAM. I believe the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus, they have 2 gig, but this bad boy has 4. And wow, do you notice? Apps load, even with voiceover turned on, apps load really quickly. So,
Doc, mail, 4 unread emails. Mail,
boom, it's up.
Message, home.
Go
Mail,
home.
4 unread emails. Doc, App Store, 1 update available.
App Store, boom, it's up. Those apps were not open. I closed all apps before, I left 2 apps open because there were things I wanted to go to. But I mean, it's just really, I take my gestures. Boom, there's my mail.
Link.
There's the one I had open, my Safari window.
Horizon Chase on left.
Oh, okay, Horizon Chase is still open. I forgot to close that. And look at how fast this loads. This is a video that I'll be covering soon on the channel. This is a sweet racing game. I mean, there's a good example of the stereo sound. You probably can't tell in the video, but it is really loud. It sounds great. Yeah, not bad. I mean, you could fill a small room with this pretty easily. Very cool game. You'll see that eventually. So I can go to my app switcher. Boom.
App switcher. Horizon Chase closing. Horizon.
Close that.
Safari. Home. Safari. Mail. App Store. News. Active. App Store. Mail. Home.
So boom, it's just super fast. I mean, even on my iPhone 6 Plus, like, if you have voiceover on, I've noticed some stuttering here and there. I've noticed, some of it not being as reactive. And like I said, I don't think it's necessarily iOS 9. I think it's just Apple's really stingy on its RAM. Like, it really surprised me that it took this long for them to get 2 gigs of RAM in their phones, let alone, I thought the 6 and the 6 Plus would have had more a couple years ago. But, so that is those are the 2 cool things that I really was looking forward to. Well, 3 actually. The 4 speakers, the nice large and clear screen, and the just a lot more memory, fast processor. I mean, this thing flies. It's really nice. Now that I have an iPad Pro, I can actually demonstrate to you something I couldn't in my iOS 9 video. I'm going to go and open my task switcher.
App switcher. Safari. Active.
I'm going to go open Safari.
KNFB reader.
Okay, so now I have Safari open, full screen. Now I'm going to go up to my
Bluetooth on. Status bar item.
Status bar. I'm going to
3 fingers to reveal
3 fingers to the left.
News. For you. Heading. Checking for new story. 5 new stories.
So now the iPad Air and later, they can do this. They can do this little kind of multitasking, sort of like, this is kind of a multitasking. This is kind of like a peek at it sort of thing, where I can be looking at something, oh, I need to quick reference something, and then make it go away. If you have the iPad Air 2 or newer, though,
Unread. Word prep. Side app divider.
side
Double
app
tap to
divider.
tabs.
Now I'm
Swipe
going to
up or
double
down to
tap and
select a custom
hold.
action, then double tap to activate.
Zoop. Come on. Oh, you're not going to do it for me this time?
Unread. Side app divider. Double tap to pin. Moving side app divider. Resize to half the screen.
Boom.
Link.
And now I have two apps. And the funny thing is, with as big as this thing is, it's kind of like having two iPad minis. I mean, you still have, let me back out of here a ways. You still have about the equivalent of two iPad minis side to side. So you still can view a good chunk. I have news on the right here, the Apple News app, and I have Safari on the left. And literally, if I'm just using my vision or if I'm using VoiceOver, I can go touch.
Away to see chat reactions. Wood so excited for the next part. We return to Life is Strange and Vertical Line November 20th, 2015.
So there's some Giant Bomb stuff I have in Safari.
News, unread. CBS All Access is
Now it tells me
streaming from
news,
Amazon Fire TV.
boom, and I have a news story, and I can just pop back and forth between things. So, you could conceivably have like an email and Pages open, or, internet and something else. You could have a movie on and some other thing. You could do a lot of different things. Now, the main limitation, there are two limitations to this multitasking business. First being, you cannot have two apps of the same kind open. So the bummer is, if I wanted to have, let's say I'm comparing something, and I wanted to have two Safari windows open, I could not do that. I still have to use my tabs across the top of Safari and do it within that one window. The only way that I would actually be able to have two separate web pages visible is I would have to have Safari and then go download another app like Chrome or Firefox or whatever it is that I wanted, and then have those two browsers open, assuming that the third-party browser supports this multitasking sort of thing. And that's the other thing, is that I'm not certain that all apps currently support this true multitasking feature. So Apple's stuff generally will. But again, if you're doing like a third-party app, it may or may not support maybe the overlay, and it may or may not support the true split screen multitasking. But like I said, I can see where this would be really kind of handy. The other, like I said, the other thing I can't do is I couldn't have two different instances of Pages or Office open at a time. Like, let's say I had my notes in one document and I had my actual report in another that I was, looking at my notes from, to create my report. I would probably have to consciously say, okay, I'm going to take notes in the Notes app or some other thing, and then I'm going to write the document itself in Pages or Word or whatever I'm going to be using. Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure my phone was still going here. But yeah, so there are some limitations to multitasking, but it is still pretty cool. So if I want to get rid of this, what I'm going to do...
Side app divider. Double tap to unpin side app divider.
All right, I will unpin that. Now we're back into the little mode. Now I will
unread. Side app divider.
Go to the side app divider again.
Swipe up or down to select a custom action. Dismiss news.
Dismiss news.
Safari.
And boom, I have my full screen Safari window open again. So it is still quick, pretty much, whether you're using VoiceOver or not. It's still quick to adjust the screen. Now I'm going to start playing this video. Oh, I'm going to...
VoiceOver off.
It doesn't like the play button with VoiceOver on these
Hello, everybody. Welcome
sites.
to our Giant Bomb East.
Now I'm going to... Okay, so now it's not doing it. That's interesting. What I was trying to demonstrate, I haven't quite figured all of it out. But in addition to split screen and multitasking, I had it the other day where I was watching one of the embedded videos on the Giant Bomb website, and when I hit the home screen, it put it down in the lower window there, and I could still play pause, or I could hide the controls. So I could be like checking my email or doing something in another app and still have a video playing down there in the lower right-hand corner, which is really kind of cool. I'm not sure why it didn't work there. I'll have to play with that a little bit more to figure out exactly why it didn't work. I'm not sure, but I have had it work before, and it is pretty cool. But just note that iOS 9, if you have an iPad 2 again or newer, you will be able to do that as well. So overall, I mean, there's really not a lot different. I mean, it's a larger iPad, of course. You know, you have the iPad mini, which is like the 7-inch. You have the Air and the Air 2, which are the 10-inch. And then you have the Slab, the iPad Pro, which is your 12.9-inch. And like I said, the main difference is you have your A9X processor in the iPad Pro. You have the 4 gig of RAM, and this thing just flies. That is my favorite thing in this thing so far. Like I said, it's just not everything I throw at it. It's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, we're good. So if you're looking for, you definitely want to try it, even if it is something that you think you're going to like, whether you're low vision or not. It's something you definitely want to take a look at first. Don't just maybe buy one. Some people think it's too big, and I totally get that. It is actually, let me close this here. It is actually pretty light. I mean, it's heavier, but look at it's about as thin as the iPad Air, like my iPad Air 1. It's almost as thin, if not as thin as it. I can't really tell. So they did a remarkable job of still keeping this thing pretty well balanced and light enough. Let me grab... Oh well. Here's my iPad Air case. In its case, I'm going to put him down on top of my iPad Pro. Look at how big that is. The iPad Air in its case, I've still got a couple of, like, I can still put, like, let's see, a little over 3 fingers wide, and I have big hands. To the right-hand side of it, I can still do that. I can still put a couple of fingers up here. So, I mean, this thing, you wouldn't think 2-3 inches would make much of a difference, but then, you know, like I said, you compare it to the next size smaller down, and it's... in a way, I think it's comically big, but like I said, I've actually really started to grow to like it already, both for the larger screen and the increased power. Let me put this off to the side. So that is the iPad Pro. Now, I do, before I wrap up this video, I want to talk a little bit about the accessories and a couple of other limitations that I think it has. Now, Apple has been billing this as... What are you complaining about? Do I have... Hold on.
Voiceover on. Weather has been using your location in the background. Landscape. Continue. Button.
Sure. Yeah,
Continue.
why not? Give me weather. All right, so what I was going to say was Apple is really billing this as you can now truly do productivity on a tablet. They're really marketing this with their new smart keyboard, and their smart keyboard case. Now, I don't buy it. Frankly, I don't completely believe it just in what they're trying to do. And I also don't buy it because it's freaking expensive. You know, their keyboard and case combo thing, that thing is like $180. Now I should do a review on this keyboard that I have. I bought this Logitech, I think it's called the G810. It is a nice separate Bluetooth keyboard. But it's comfortable. The keys feel great to type on. It's backlit. And you can pair it with multiple devices. And I paid well under $100 for it. So you know what? I'm going to keep using that. I'm going to keep using my better Logitech keyboard. From what I've heard, also the Apple keyboard that they're trying to sell with this one, they actually omit the top row, which is where your like function keys and your escape key is. So like some of your quick features, like, you know, volume and brightness and different things like that they have usually mapped up there, you can't do because that keyboard doesn't have. Now, there's another one that people are sort of liking. I don't remember what it's called, but that one's even $150, so it still doesn't really interest me. I don't have a case for this thing yet. I have one coming from Amazon. It's just going to be kind of a smart case, sort of like how I had my iPad Air in. The one thing that I like about potentially with it is that on the back it's also magnetic. So when I flip the case over, when I'm open and I'm using it, it's not flapping around in the back. Potentially it'll just sit and kind of cling to the back of the iPad, and it won't be hanging out the back. So that could be cool. And maybe I'll take a quick video for that. We'll see. So you have the keyboard and the keyboard case. When I was at the Apple Store and I bought this thing, I did ask what cases they had, and they also had this, again, let me grab my iPad Air again. So here's the case, it's just this tri-fold
KNFB reader.
sort of spiel.
Tap to open.
I got tons of notifications there. But it's, it's the case. I can flip it behind it, whatever. And this is all one piece. This is all one piece here.
To adjust the value.
And the problem is, when I looked at the cases for the new iPad Pro, Apple's getting, I know Apple stuff has really been expensive, and that, their theory is they focus on quality. Yeah, okay, fine. But I think they're even getting too greedy for themselves right now. Now, they split the front cover and the back part of the case into two separate things that you have to buy. One of them is like $50 or 55, something like that. The other one is like $80. So between those two, you're going to milk me for both the front and the back, and you're going to charge me $150? Are you high? Absolutely not. I'm not paying that. And there's going to be tons of third-party cases out there, and they're going to be fine. Most of the times, like for my phones and stuff, I've always bought third-party cases because I haven't been a huge fan of the Apple cases. The Air case is the one exception where I actually bought an Apple case. But no, if they're going to be that ridiculous about it, no, I'm not going to buy their cases. That's ridiculous. $150? Good God, man. The other thing that they're selling is this stylus, or the pencil, as they call it, which is, funnily enough, not really available. As you can get the iPad, but you can't get the stylus because they have trouble getting it in stock, or it's back ordered or something. And this is $100 again. Again, there's nowhere on the iPad to store it. A Microsoft Surface Pro, they will give you the stylus with it because they want you to use it. They also have a place for it. I think it magnetically sticks on, or there's a place to put it. So like I said, Apple, they know their fans are just crazy. And I think they're getting a little bit too greedy. Like, if they really want this thing to sell, if they want to give an advantage over the Surface, or keep up with the Surface, at least make your pencil cheaper. At least make it, or include it with, like a Pro bundle or something. Give some financial incentive for people to do so. I mean, good God. So if you bought like a 128 gig version, you go with the 32 is like $749. The one that I got, the 128, is, what is it, $949 or something like that. And then the Wi-Fi is over 1,000, or the cellular is over 1,000. Then you add $150 for a case. You add $99 if you want the stylus or the pencil. It's just ridiculous. I could buy a pretty sweet laptop for that price. I mean, a full functioning laptop at that price. Also, here is where I'm going to say a couple negative things that probably some people are not going to like. What I will say is I do, as a current iPad user, I do like the iPad. I do like the iPad Pro. It's a nice consumption device. I do some tasks with it. I do some creation with it. But I primarily use it, to look at web pages, read mail, play games, watch movies, do, some productivity tasks, but not a lot. It just depends. Again, Apple is pitching this as a productivity tool. Now, there was an article on The Verge the other day that I thought was kind of interesting. They were kind of comparing what people mostly mistaken for productivity as like just not being useful. Like there's a comparison being productive and being useful. Productivity is, you can check your mail, I can check Facebook, I can do a few tweets, I can do, whatever, make appointments, but actually getting the work done, writing a report, creating something, doing what I actually get paid for, not just the fluff of managerial stuff or meetings or all that kind of crap. That's where the iPad kind of fails, because you have that limitation of you can't have multiple of the same app open at the same time. They have keyboard support, you can type, but they don't really fully have, if you get a Windows Surface or you get a Microsoft tablet, it's going to have full keyboard support, not just like Alt Tab or something, but you're going to have, everything that you get in Windows as far as keyboard shortcuts go. You can Alt Tab, you can use your Control B for bold, you can use your any of the number of general Windows commands and application commands you can do with the keyboard. Apple maybe has a little bit more advantage of being a little bit more touch friendly, because I still contend that Microsoft's touch interface, even on Windows 10, leaves a bit to be desired, because some of the stuff is still ridiculously small. So it's like, how do you get your big fingers, to touch these little tiny checkboxes or something? But as far as a productivity base, like, I would still go a real computer, be it a laptop, a desktop, whatever. I would still much rather go with a Windows computer, or if you're in the Mac ecosystem, a Mac. Relating to that, the other thing that I still don't like, I wish that Apple would split off their iTunes music and movie service separate from their data management system. By that I mean, like, they're using Apple, they're using iTunes for movies and music and all that kind of stuff, but you also have to use that if you really want to transfer stuff back and forth, you really have to either use a cloud system like Dropbox or OneDrive or something like that, or you have to use iTunes. Like, I can't just connect this to a computer and copy things back and forth. Like, if you really want this to be a productivity tool, I need to be able to, I have a meeting in 5 minutes. I don't want to have to frickin' play with iTunes, dump stuff over there. I mean, yes, you could argue you could just do everything in Dropbox, sure. But there are still times where I would absolutely love to be able to just plug it in my lightning cable, plug it into my computer, show it up in like the Mac Finder or the Windows Explorer, and just copy stuff back and forth. You don't even have to give me the full operating system structure. Give me a place that iOS looks, and I can create my own folder structure in that one space, and apps can just look in that folder structure for my files and just let me copy and paste things back and forth from there. I'm fine with that. But that would be a really, really helpful thing. And I know Apple, they want to keep things simple and stuff, but in a way, I think iTunes is just a lot more clunky than it needs to be with that. And you have this whole bloated, like, music and media management service and this file transfer thing all in one thing. I think they could make a really lightweight file transfer sort of deal and separate it. And I say, I know they're trying to keep it simple, and people are scared of files and folders and stuff. But I mean, really, I don't really understand. I know people have trouble with it, and it just kind of baffles me. Like, files and folders, they're really not that hard. You compare it to, it's like, well, when you get some new clothes, what do? Do I wrap those around the dresser drawer? Is that how I do it? No, of course not. I put the pants or I put the socks in the drawer. I put the file in the folder. It's not really any more complicated than that. Anyway, that's kind of just my personal rant. I think there are truly, I said, I like the iPad Pro. I do. And if you're using it primarily as a tablet and you're okay with that, and you want it bigger, especially if you're low vision, you're going to like the nice screen and all the other perks that you get. If you are thinking this is a laptop replacement, or if you're a school and you think this is a laptop replacement, it isn't. No, it isn't. You still really have to learn to use a computer, because there are things that you just really can't do, or you can't do as maybe quickly or efficiently that you could do on a fully functioning like laptop operating system. iOS 9, some of its streamlined, some of its sandboxing stuff is kind of holding it back as far as, like I said, Apple, if they really want to make it like a replacement, address some of those multitasking things, you know, rip apart iTunes a little bit, redo that, or just make a nice little file copy utility that would make things a lot easier. You know, add full keyboard shortcuts that are standard throughout the operating system, you know, kind of like how Windows does. You know, I know that Control P prints everywhere. I know that Control S saves everywhere. I know that Alt F4 will close a window in Windows. I know that, you know, and Apple, the Mac does a lot of this stuff too. So if they're really working on this convergence, that's just, I think, something that's going to happen if they're really going to start pushing this as a productivity tool. So that kind of negative, you know, those are kind of some of my minor kind of negatives I would have. But like I said, overall, this is the iPad Pro. I've had it for several days now, almost a week now. And, well, actually, a few days anyway. And I've been using it a lot. Like I said, I've used it for web pages, I've used it for mail, I've used it for some other apps, I've used it for some low vision stuff. I looked at the eBot CCTV app, which you need their kind of spinny device, but I use that at work with it. Works beautifully. KNFB Reader is just ridiculously fast with this. I would demo it, but I can't hold my phone in this big old slab at the same time to really be able to show you. But it works really well. Like I said, you're going to notice the screen right away. You're going to notice the speed right away. And I think that's where, you know, like I said, if you don't mind having a bigger, if you don't mind holding a bigger device and then using a stand when you can for like watching movies and stuff like that, I think you're going to like it. You're going to notice the speed. And next year, please, please, for the love of God, please, Apple, put at minimum 2, if not bump the iPads or the iPhone 7. Put 4 gigs of RAM in that sucker, because it's a noticeable difference. And memory is cheap. Come on, guys, quit being so stingy. Let's do it. Make it happen. So that is kind of a look at the iPad Pro and the multitasking and some of the things I like, some of the things I don't like about it, you know. I'm not really going to go into any more detail as far as iOS goes. By now, you probably know about iOS 9. I have an iOS 9 video up. You've probably had it installed on your devices so far. Again, you're multitasking and you're watching movies in the background. Those are really the two benefits that you have. You have those types of benefits compared to like an older, like my iPad Air that I didn't have. So hope you guys enjoyed it, found it useful. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. And hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time, I'll talk to you guys again later.